All right. Greetings, everybody. I'm here with the infamous OakFoSho, Spencer Mills. How did you put that? Autonomous guerrilla media?
Absolutely.
I like that. I'm glad that we could finally get together and God, there's just so much to talk about. I don't even know where to start. How is your day going, by the way?
It's been good. Just trying to place this pit bull. Trying to find a home for this pit bull, and
Let's
yeah,
see her. Show her to the folks at home. Look at this face, guys.
she's
Wait,
lying down now.
oh, that's not a face.
She's lying down now, but yeah, we've been trying to place her, find a home for her. We found her in West Oakland last night. She was just wandering around by West Grand and Market. I opened my door, gave her a whistle, and she just jumped right in my lap. So she's without a chip. She was without a collar at the time, and so we're just trying to find her a home, and hopefully we can find her a home. If my landlord knew that she was in here right now, it'd be the death of me. But
Don't tell anybody, folks.
yeah, right. We'll
What
just tell the whole world, just not my landlord.
do you want to share a little bit about the placement issues that you're dealing with in case there's somebody out there in the area that's willing, to work with her or
Well, she's great with people, phenomenal with people, loves people, but she's not. She's apparently dog aggressive, according to the SPCA. That they ran a test on her today. They were thinking about. We had some people call up and offer them money because normally they don't take strays, and we had some people from Twitter call up and offer them money to take this dog if she passed this test, and she passed everything but the dog aggressive test, and so. Yeah, we just gotta try and find a place for her is all. And I'm gonna take her to GA tonight, and
yes.
we'll see what's up with GA.
Well,
The Aki Doggy.
Aki Doggy, there's been the Aki Kitten and the Aki. I even saw an Aki Ferret at one of the last reoccupations. So, yeah, go, Aki animals. I,
Right.
I want to talk about and I don't know if you were aware that we mirrored your stream from the city council meeting last night, and we all stayed up and watched it till the very end. And first let me just say you guys were incredible. Everybody that got up and spoke out and spoke up, it was amazing. But my understanding is that the emergency proposal was to authorize or to prevent another port shutdown by any means necessary. Is that correct?
Right. Well, so basically the proposal itself was stated they were to use any and all legal means necessary to stop any future port shutdown, which basically on Oakland terms that basically means using OPD to basically stop any any form of protest at the port, I guess. And well, number one, that's wrong because workers have the right to strike if they want to strike. And if workers want to strike and shut down that port, like even if it's not, I mean, that port's been shut down without Occupy Oakland. It's happened in the past. And so number one, they're just trying to take away the work. It would take away the workers' right to strike, and that's just kind of fundamentally wrong, especially here in Oakland. With the progressive nature of this city. And number two, I mean, people people have a right to gather for the redress of grievances against their government, and this kind of would, in many ways, hinder that when specifically talking about the economics of the port, fighting back against the 1%, whatnot. So yeah, we showed up in force because we believe that this the broad language the that the proposal had in itself was kind of it's very dangerous, not just to our movement, but to the rights of any individuals down there associated with the port or that wanted to do something involving the port. I mean, like SSA terminals are like 50% owned by Goldman Sachs. We had a broker come down last night claiming he was a trucker, and try to claim that he was a trucker last night, and it was just so obvious. We had actually had his business card from before, so we knew who he was. And at the end of the meeting, one of our representatives went up to the councilwoman Kaplan and basically explained exactly who this guy was. He's not a trucker at all, and nobody was down there threatening truckers like he said, and it was just we were actually down there. I actually was on video interviewing several truckers. Some of them who agreed and some of them who didn't. So, this idea that they felt their lives were in danger, or their lives were threatened, is just nonsense.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, a lot of us, and reading through the Occupy Oakland Twitter stream last night after the council meeting to try and get a sense of a temp check of how everybody felt about it, and the universal theme that everybody seemed to take away from this very broad language of by any means necessary was that they were looking for a way to authorize the use of lethal force. Would you agree that?
Well, the actual language "by any means necessary" was not in the proposal.
Okay.
That language was actually not in the proposal. I posted the proposal to my Twitter feed several times. The idea was to use any and all legal means, essentially, to stop any port action. Well, define what that. It's difficult to say what that exactly means. I mean, in Oakland, we have a history of police brutality. We have a history of the police going too far. We have a history of just essentially violence in this community, and oftentimes OPD is responsible for that. There's a lot of violence in this community that OPD is not responsible for, but nonetheless, there's a reason why OPD is in the federal courts right now. There's a reason why OPD might be under federal jurisdiction in the very near future, because they have a lack of organizational control, a history of violence, and a history of a lack of accountability when those violence issues do happen. So, giving them that responsibility, giving them the responsibility of protecting the port against future shutdowns would only create inevitable conflict that would lead to inevitable lawsuits. Also, one of the councilwomen last night brought up a very important point. This was an emergent proposal, I guess, is how they brought it up without going through the normal channels that would normally take a few months. They brought it up as an emergent proposal, and one of the things that they failed to do was an economic analysis, like how much would it cost? And the police chief, who many of us dislike, nevertheless basically came through and said, hey, this would cost anywhere from about $1.5 to $2 million every couple days to be able to defend this port. And where are we going to find that money? Where are we going to find that money? So again, they seem to be able to find all this money for OPD and police actions and for like $400,000 a month to hire private security to make sure that we don't occupy Franco Gawa Plaza, aka Oscar Grant Plaza, in front of City Hall and in front of Department of Homeland Security here in Oakland. And it's just how much money these people find. So much money for all these things, but they can't seem to find $2 million to keep 5 schools open next year. They're closing 30 schools in the next 5 years, and it's just the irony, the hypocrisy, the total lack of proper prioritization in this city is highly prevalent. And last night was a perfect example. Now, there were some great things done last night in that meeting. In fact, we have like a local ID act that's going through so that undocumented or individuals that don't qualify or can't get state or federal IDs can get local IDs here in Oakland. They can take that to get local accounts and things like that. And so there is good things that are done by the city council, but as far as we're concerned on that measure, on that proposal, it was so far beyond the bounds that they needed to go, that they felt they needed to do. I mean, it extended. It was just so far out there as far as the possibilities that could come as a result of the proposal. And we showed up in great numbers. I mean, we showed up in great numbers, and I think 59 people. I've never been witness to a city council meeting where 59 people want to talk on a proposal.
Mm-hmm.
It was unbelievable, and we just shut it down. And they, the way I feel about it is, if we didn't show up last night, The people that voted not to hear the proposal, I mean, it was a 4-4 split in the city council, and basically you need a 2/3 vote to be able to hear an emergency proposal. And if we didn't show up, the people that voted against it being an emergent proposal probably would have voiced their concerns and would have said, hey, you know, we disagree with this. You know, we disagree that you know, or they would have voiced their concerns of disagreement, things like that. But I think they still would have passed it. But the fact that we showed up in great numbers last night and were clearly very vocal and clearly very angry, and there was a lot of emotion in the chamber, you know, meant that they basically voted it down as an emergent proposal. Now, it's not dead by any means. It's going to go through the normal processes. They're gonna do like the normal economic analysis, things like that, and we're gonna have to show up again. We're gonna have to do a lot of a lot of community outreach, in my opinion. We're going to have to do a lot to make sure that they don't pass this in the future. You know, we've got to look at all the negatives of it and promote those negatives essentially as what they are. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So it's not dead, but we had a small victory last night. The battle was won. The war is not over.
No, still have a long way to go on a lot of fronts, don't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you brought up, you know, Oakland's long history with police brutality, which of course, you know, leads me to, you know, a lot of people send in questions wanting to get your most vivid impressions of the night of the first Oakland raid. You know, what can you share that is of value? What did you learn? What was the most shocking aspect? I mean,
well, you know, the first Oakland raid was it was September 25th or
something like that.
Yeah, and so the first Oakland raid was very quick. They came in at about 4:30 a.m. I was down there. I wasn't streaming yet. I was taking photos. Actually, some of the photos I took ended up on HuffPo somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, I think I got one of the only photos of like the only smoke bomb that was used that night.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it was thrown by a protester or whatnot, and I got the police retreating and putting on gas masks.
Mm-hmm.
It was, you know, it was a powerful photo, but nevertheless, it was very quick. They just basically moved in. Like we barricaded the plaza that night, but they moved in, tore all that down, surrounded it, arrested about 100 people or so.
Mm-hmm.
They set up a processing table at Clay and 14th. It was about a block and a half, 2 blocks from the plaza. And I walked up and was just standing by the processing table for probably about 20 minutes, just filming as people came up and were processed. And you know, this is back when I was still posting videos to YouTube and things like that. And this police officer comes up to me and he goes, "Who are you?" And I said, "Well, I'm Spencer." And he goes, "Well, who are you with?" And I said, "Well, I'm here with myself." And he says, "Well, you have to leave." I said, "Well, I'm not in the plaza, sir." And we got into this whole debate about, you know, public space and this and that. And I was like, "Well, I'm not on the plaza. I'm not involved in a public disturbance. I'm simply here doing my job, filming the police." And finally, he's like, "You know what? I'm going to make an arrest here." And rather than be arrested, I chose to continue documenting from about 20 feet away. But nevertheless, it was kind of like my first run-in with OPD like from a filming standpoint, from a journalist standpoint. And I wish that night that I had known all that I know now, ways in which to defend myself legally, whatnot, because it was all on camera. And, you know, I wish that night that I had been live streaming, because if I had been arrested right there, you know, it's very commonplace for phone cards and for little SD cards to just disappear when you're arrested. And so I would have had no ability to address the issues that I would have been, you know, fighting for, as far as like freedom of press, whether I'm a civilian journalist or not. You know, I would have had no ability to do that. Now that I have a stream and that I'm up live consistently, they all know who I am. It's actually kind of funny. One of my friends was walking through the plaza the other day, and she's just a friend of mine. She helped set up my website, and she overhears. I guess private security is standing there with Oakland police, and she overhears them say, "That's the one. She's with OakFoSho." And I just, when she told me that, I was just like, they clearly have files on all of us. They clearly know who each and every one of us are. And they clearly have files on every one of us. I mean, they aren't just surveilling me. They're surveilling all my friends too. Anybody that's seen conversing with me, anybody that's, shows up with me, I guarantee they have, our vigil, our 24-hour vigil now, where we used to have the camp, is in between City Hall and Homeland Security. And so they have cameras guaranteed in windows, on rooftops, and that place is under constant surveillance. It's guaranteed. And so, it just brings a level of understanding to the whole situation that they are watching us, and they know who we are, and I'm okay with that. I'm not doing, we aren't doing anything wrong. We're exercising our rights, and it's not anything to be fearful of. It's just something to be knowledgeable about, and to understand that, hey, they don't want us there. They're going to do anything and everything they can to continue to harass us and get us to leave, but we aren't going anywhere, and we will figure out a way to keep this movement going, especially here in Oakland, for as long as it takes. One of the things about Oakland is, it seems, New York started something. They started something on Wall Street, and they're at the center of financial power in this country, which in many ways is the center of power in this country,
right?
Because they pretty much own every congressman that we have is owned by some lobby group, and the most powerful ones receive crap loads of donations from all these financial institutions and are just basically bought and paid for. But they started something, and we feel like out in here in Oakland, we kind of like, it's almost like the Olympic flame, like they lit the flame. We brought our torch, and we lit our torch, and we're just running with it.
Yeah.
And we might not be going the same direction as everybody, but we consider ourselves very much our own leaders of the movement as well. I mean, some of the radical actions passed here in Oakland, whether it be the first general strike since the 1940s, which ironically was also here in Oakland, whether it be shutting down the port twice, whether it be last night, literally going to the seat of power and speaking truth to that power in great numbers, loudly, boldly, and clearly. We are in many ways trendsetters, and we will continue to be trendsetters. We are a radical, kind of like the radical brother, the radical little brother, like our family members are sitting over in New York, and they're like, oh yeah, that's Oakland out there. They're a little crazy, but
right, the redheaded stepchild.
Right, exactly. We're like the little brother on the West Coast, and we're gonna do what we do, and be radical and push this movement in a direction that we feel is necessary. And I think it kind of goes to show, we started by shutting down our port, and then we have the entire West Coast that stands in solidarity with us about a month later.
Yeah.
And we do it again.
That was beautiful.
Now what I'm thinking, of course, now is we've got to refocus and kind of aim ourselves in. My idea moving forward, where Oakland can lead, is to start doing some targeted boycotts. We can boycott very targeted businesses, whether it be not just the banks, but it could be, say, Koch industry owned business, or it could be, basically we can start targeted boycotts of businesses that are taking advantage of the middle class, taking advantage of the working class, taking advantage of the poor. We can do that, and we can set an example and have the rest of the country follow us. And we in Oakland, yesterday I was at a few houses that have been basically taken, and are being, foreclosed homes that are being used and utilized for the movement, and to try and get people to stay in their homes. We have people actively occupying people's foreclosed homes.
It's beautiful.
I would like to see the state, number one, California. We have a level of diversity and a level of power here just in California that I don't really think anybody else around the nation has. We have, the Southern California movements here. We have Occupy LA, Occupy San Diego, and all the different Occupies in Southern California. Then you come up here and you've got Occupy Cal, Occupy Berkeley, Occupy Oakland, Occupy San Jose and San
Occupy
Francisco.
Davis.
Occupy Davis, Sacramento. You've got all these groups and all these supporters. If we pool our efforts, and decide to do something as a state, we can again start to set trends. I mean, I think before we come together nationally as a movement, we're going to have to come together regionally. Much like we did with the West Coast port shutdown. In many ways, I think what they did in Washington by just marching on their state capitol and occupying that thing. Just marching up into their state capitol and occupying it with sleeping bags and everything else. That was a radical action, and I really hope people around the country start to take that as an example, and it's time to start marching on our capitals. What they did in Wisconsin when before the Occupy movement started.
Yes, with Scott
Walker.
Yes.
What they did in Wisconsin was very much a precursor to what happened in Seattle. March on that state capitol. It's not theirs. It belongs to us. It's the people's house.
Exactly.
And so it's time to take it back. One of the things, we've got something really cool that's going on, coming up right around New Year's. It started in Southern California, but I think a lot of people are going to participate, especially as we continue to promote it. But they're going to occupy the Rose Parade. Like they're going to go down there. They're going to go down there, and the night before the Rose Parade, they've already got they talked to the police. They've done it legally, but the point is they're going to go down there and line up in Old Town Pasadena, right in every key camera angle. In 2008, they did it for an anti-war protest, and these anti-war protest signs got on TV for like 3 hours.
Oh, beautiful!
This year they're bringing signs that are like 3 times as big, with a larger group. And they're going to have these signs at all the key camera angles. And so when the Wells Fargo float goes by and they break out when they break out a 20-foot sign saying "Stop foreclosures now," Wells Fargo, it's going to go
Hi,
around.
Mom.
Right. It's the second biggest televised event next to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Is the Rose Parade. It's going to go around the country to 50 million homes, and then it's going to go around the world to something like 200 million people.
Yeah.
And then you've got at the end of the Rose Parade, they're in cahoots, I guess, with the police down there. There's the last float, the 43rd float, and then 4 police cars. And directly after the 4 police cars are what they're calling float number 44 and float number 99, 99%. And so float number 44 is going to be like a 200-foot structure of the Constitution.
Yes.
Carried by, it's basically going to be a human float of occupiers. Directly after that is going to be like this massive, I think float number 99 is what they're calling it. It's going to be this massive octopus that symbolizes the Fed, with all its tentacles going out, and that's going to be cool. And then after that, they're going to be carrying this giant tuxedoed, top-hatted man that represents the 99%. And it's just going to be hilarious, in my opinion. Man. Like Cindy Sheehan's going to show up, some activists are going to show up, and basically, hopefully, like 4,000 or 5,000 of our friends will show up, and we're going to occupy the Rose Parade. And basically, I mean, we're not trying to mess with 120 years of tradition. We're not going to disrupt the parade. They're going to have their little parade, but we're going to be on public spaces around that parade and directly behind the parade with our own human floats. And we're going to make some noise. I mean, within a 1-mile area of Old Town Pasadena are about 200,000 people on that day, and they're going to all see us marching down after the final float. Like, what the heck is going on? And so it's going to be very interesting. Already, apparently, the Southern California Tea Party is trying to come together with like an anti-Occupy event or whatever. And what I have to say to them is, they're getting shafted too. The only people that aren't getting shafted as members of the Tea Party are the corporate backers behind it.
Exactly.
Everybody's getting shafted in this country. People in the Tea Party are being foreclosed on too.
Right.
People in the Tea Party, got subprime loans too. People in the Tea Party are anti-war too. Would like us to bring our troops home too. There's a lot of Ron Paul supporters involved in the Occupy movement. And while I disagree with Ron Paul on many an issue, I have a great deal of respect for him because he never falters. He believes in his political viewpoint and ideology, though I may disagree with a lot of it. He never falters for political gain. And so, there's a lot of Ron Paul people out there, and I tend to when I speak to them, I tend to try to focus on things we agree on, like Ron Paul's foreign policy and the wars, and these World War I, World War II, and Cold War era type bases that are costing us billions of dollars every year to keep overseas. There's no reason to have these bases other than for posterity and basically just because we can as an extension of our power. It's just pointless. We're just wasting money when that money could be used to keep people in their homes here at home. And so, there are conservatives out there. And so to the Tea Party that's trying to get this like anti-Occupy protest going in Southern California, number one, bring it. Because I'd love to sit out there and debate with you. Number one, nobody wants, like, you say you're anti-big government. Well, I'm not anti-government. I'm anti-wasteful government. I would love an efficient government, and I think most people would agree with that. Yes. And there's no reason why we can't work together to have a more efficient government. You say that you're anti-tax and all this nonsense. Well, why don't you get on the corporate backers behind your movement and, get on them for basically not paying any taxes.
Right.
There was an article the other day, 30 major American U.S. corporations spent more money lobbying government in 2009 and 2010 than they did taxes. More money, basically billions of dollars, lobbying and buying our government rather than paying taxes. And so let's end these practices. Let's end the fundamental corruption of our system. That as long as our elected representatives continue to take money from those that they're supposed to regulate, I say it all the time. As long as you take money from those you're supposed to regulate, your system is broken, your system is corrupt, and you're a part of it. And we all are fundamentally part of this hypocrisy, and we can all come together as the 99%, which the Tea Party, in many ways, the rank and file Tea Party members, in many ways are the 99% too, and we just want to sit down and talk with them. I can sit down and talk with them on an individual basis and come together and come to agreement on so many issues.
Right.
But the news media in this country is invested in the division of America. They're invested in keeping us separated. They're invested in
ignorance.
In ignorance and dividing us. And so they eat it up, hook, line, and sinker. And rather than sit down and talk with one another, Americans just sitting down at the same table and discussing where we can agree and where we can get things done. That's what I like to do. That's what I like to do with my camera when I'm out there. I like to find dissenting viewpoints, and I like to talk to them and see where we can agree. I mean, that's the point behind this whole thing, in my opinion, is being the 99%. There's going to be a lot of disagreement, but there's a lot of things we do agree upon. It's just
and finding that common ground is important. You as part of the 99%, you're going to have just such a wide variety of views and backgrounds, and so many of us are coming from different places, but there's a common thread that unites us all. So, I enjoy going out and finding those people too to talk to and, find ways that we can meet in the middle. You mentioned, if you'd known that the night of that first raid, what you know now, in that regard, what advice can you give to other activists that are wanting to get out there and start streaming, safety?
Never stop filming. Never stop filming. Know your rights. Know that you have, as long as you aren't breaking the law or being, you have a right to document what the police are doing. Just be in their face with it too. I mean, let them know, hey, I'm here with a camera and you're being filmed. And you're going, at this point, at this point, there's so many people out there with smartphones. I mean, we've kind of, it's been like one of the main things, like as a, I don't even know what to say, what to call it. Like, it hasn't been like a main objective of the movement to like make sure that everybody out there, like, it's just kind of happened with us with people spreading the word and with people understanding the power of video as a byproduct of the movement has been just like this enormous growth in citizen journalism, enormous growth in citizen documentation. And so just never keep the cameras, never stop moving the cameras, never stop filming. Always let the police know that you're there and you're filming them. And just know your rights. Know, I mean, the other day they started giving tickets to people in Oakland for umbrellas.
I heard about this.
Right. So we started bringing, like, we can't have tents, right? So we started bringing out big ass umbrellas, these big umbrellas. And like the interfaith umbrella is hilarious. Like, it's this like 8-foot umbrella. And what they do is they tilt it onto one side with the pole. Like they put it on some steps. And so you can sit underneath it really comfortably. And they've started giving people tickets for structures. Umbrellas as structures, and it's just ridiculous. I mean, you look in the law, you look in the actual piece of code that they say that we're violating, and it requires like a removal of dirt, planted posts, all these different guidelines. None of them that an umbrella fits under. And so I don't believe they'll ever have to actually pay for that ticket. But the point is, they're trying anything and everything, within the law and outside of the law, obviously, to try and stop us. And so just know your rights. Know that if you have it on film, there are people, the NLG or the ACLU that will come and they will have your back. And they will, I mean, like 99% of the people that have been arrested here in Oakland, all charges have been dropped and they've just been released.
Really?
Because of the backing of the NLG that have come in and the lawyers that have been working.
They've been great.
Yeah, absolutely. So just know your rights. Never stop the cameras from moving, and just let the police know that you're there. I mean, they all know who I am now. So I mean, the other day I found it kind of funny. The other day, and they monitor my Twitter feed too. They monitor all of our Twitter feeds, but the last 2 times that I've come when things were happening at Oscar Grant Plaza, I need to stop tweeting that I'm almost there. Because I tweet that I'm almost there, and I show up, and they just all bounce, And I think what it is they know that they have a certain time frame with which to do what they want to do, and they need to get out because everybody with cameras is going to show up in about 15 minutes. So they came, they harassed everybody for about 15 minutes. They arrested a few people. They said any possession that was like on the ground was property that was left, and so they just took it and threw it away. One guy got arrested for taking a blanket out of a trash can. A blanket was taken from a homeless person in the park, and one of our activists went over to the trash can and tried to take it out, and he was arrested as a result. This is the kind of thing that's happening now. And what
was the charge?
I don't even know. I don't even know what they got him with.
Removal of litter from a waste receptacle.
I don't even know what they charged him with. The other day they took out Occupiers, which is basically this homemade raft that like some Occupy Oaklanders built and floated out on Lake Merritt, and they've been occupying Lake Merritt for about a week, maybe a little longer, and it's just hilarious. Like, OPD chose to come out on a pontoon boat. And with like 30 cops. They had like a fire department boat out there, like a maritime rescue fire department boat that came out with a couple of firefighters, which we still don't know if it was legal because the firemen aren't allowed to take part in offensive actions here in Oakland. And then they had some folks from the docks that refused to participate. Like, they actually wanted to do it the previous day or whatnot, the previous night, but apparently the dock workers were really down with the Occupy folks on the lake, and they wouldn't drive their boat for them.
Nice.
So they had to find somebody that was like certified to be able to drive the boat out to be able to come and get these guys. And They used all these resources to take 3 people off a freaking raft in the middle of a lake. It's just ridiculous, the whole thing.
So
And
now
they
you're
charged them, like they zip tied them, they brought them in, they cited them and released them. But the funny thing is when you look at the citation, they cited them for boat. They just cited them for boat. That's it. It's just unbelievable. Some of the things that are happening. It's
so
just funny.
so it's not legal to raft now.
Well, no, it's legal. You're just not allowed to anchor, and you're not allowed to be there after 10 p.m. on the lake. But nevertheless, there are home invasions in Oakland where the police don't show up.
Yeah.
People are having home invasions. They call, hey, somebody's breaking into my house, and they're armed, and police don't show up.
Yeah.
They just don't have the resources to, or they claim not to have the resources to. Yet for 3 people, bothering no one, just basically making a political statement by having a raft on a lake with a big sign that says "Occupy everything." They bring out 30 police officers, pieces of the fire department, a pontoon boat, all this nonsense. They bring out, and they can somehow do that, but they can't respond to people's home invasions where people are being brutalized, murdered, raped, robbed.
It's unconscionable, absolutely unconscionable.
It's ridiculous, and it's a perfect example of the necessity for federal control over OPD at this point in time, in my opinion. It's just total lack of prioritization, lack of organizational control, lack of accountability, a history of violence that continues. It's like strike 1, 2, 3, and 4. In my opinion, it's like you're not just striking out. We're giving you an extra one, and you're still failing.
Right.
It's on another level here. It's on another level of ridiculousness.
Well, so many of us have seen, the footage of Scotty Olson, down on the ground, and everybody trying to render aid from that night, and the flashbang, coming in, and it was hard for me as a human rights activist to equate that what I was seeing was actually happening stateside and not in Tunisia or Bahrain. I mean, it was a truly surreal sight to think that this, 7 or 8 hours away was happening in Oakland, California to my, our own people. What were your most vivid impressions of that night?
I mean, personally understanding the history, growing up here, having been witness to riots, having been witness to many a protest here, and police violence that is on a whole nother level. I mean, there's a few places in this country where people understand what we've gone through. Chicago, New York. These places, they understand the level of brutality that we deal with because they've had to deal with it too. But there's few places else in this country that understand what this city, specifically the minority communities in this city, have had to deal with for decades. There's a reason the Black Panther Party started here. There's a reason why that form of radicalization took place and grew roots here and became so powerful because of the level of violence and the level of brutality that the African American community at the time was facing, and they still face in many ways. And so my impression was it was more of the same. Everybody else everywhere else was shocked. I mean, I think people were still shocked. But in the back of our heads, we expected it. There's a reason why we all came out with gas masks. There's a reason why we all came out ready for anything. But that initial flashbanging, tear gas, canister, rubber bulleting of protesters happened with the elderly, the disabled, children, whole families present in that crowd, and was totally unprovoked. And for the rest of the night, you just had an angry group of people march away, march back, regather. They get flashbang tear gassed again, march away, march back, and we wouldn't stop. And we won't stop. They can choose to, the only way that they can have us stop is to basically do what they did in the last couple of raids, and that was essentially come in tactically sound, and not send anybody to the hospital, and not purposefully wound people, not shoot anybody in the head with tear gas canisters and flashbang and tear gas elderly and disabled folks. I mean, yeah, I mean that's OPD though. That's just kind of par for the course as far as OPD is concerned. What's happened lately has actually been, with the last raid on Snow Park and the last raid on Oscar Grant Plaza,
Mm-hmm.
has actually been as far as OPD standards are concerned, it's been different.
Really?
Let's say different. Yeah, I mean they've done it quietly, they've done it tactically, in a very efficient manner. They haven't come in and tear gassed or flashbanged, like they did in the first few raids, and so it's been a little bit different. People have still been arrested, and people have still been hurt in some ways and beaten, but it's been on a less violent level. It's still been violent, but it's been on a less violent level. Mm-hmm. And so, they made worldwide news for all the wrong reasons, and I don't think they want to do that anymore. Mm-hmm. And so that's another reason, that proposal last night. All it's going to do is create conflict between a police force that clearly doesn't want it anymore, mm-hmm. Because of the bad press and the situations that arise out of it, and people that are not going to stop. If we want to shut down that port, we're going to shut down that port, and there's nothing they're going to do about it. Mm-hmm. I don't. You want to start lobbing tear gas canisters and flashbangs down at the port. That's going to shut it down just as fast as anything that we're going to be doing. Yeah. So if we want to shut down that port, and we don't have to go into the port to shut it down.
Exactly.
There's a couple of access points, and we can just hang out outside,
mm-hmm.
and just lie down on the ground and not let any of these trucks pass. There's a couple of key overpasses, a couple of key intersections that we could shut down, and we don't even need to walk in on the terminals. Mm-hmm. We don't even need to. So they can do whatever they want. We're going to do whatever we want, and if we really want to shut it down again, we will. And what was important is we needed to remind the city council last night, we shut the ports down in response to their actions. We shut the port down initially and called the general strike in response to the brutality we faced on the initial raid, and then the following night's tear gassing and what happened to Scott Olson.
Yes.
That was in response.
Yes.
We shut down the West Coast in response to a perf organized, nationally organized raid on the Occupy movement as a whole. These were response actions. So again, don't give us something to respond to, and your portal stay open.
Right.
Let us have our rights to protest, and let us protest and just basically have our rights, and we will not have to shut down your port.
Seems logical.
Right. I mean, let us do what we're going to do because we're going to do it anyways. And that'll be that. I mean, this is supposed to be a progressive city council, and there are those on the city council that are progressive, and I'm getting a ton of texts right now because apparently
something going on.
Well, number one, my friend's brother says that he can take the dog at least on a temporary basis.
Yes, that's wonderful.
The city of Berkeley has given an Occupy Berkeley eviction letter for 10 p.m. tonight. So what that tells me is every time that we've gotten an eviction letter, whether it be in Los Angeles or in Oakland, mm-hmm. They've given us an eviction letter, and then about 24 hours later that comes through. So I'm going to be there, of course, because it's right over. It's our sister Occupy right
yes.
over, and I'm going to be there to cover it. But
much love to Berkeley.
They are essentially facing eviction tonight as of 10 p.m. So put that out to your people as well. When you get it, and we'll be there. I'm getting just text message after text.
That's
message.
Fine.
So he wants to keep her for a couple of days and see how she fits in.
That's great.
Going to Marin later.
I love it. Baby's got a home. Did she ever wake up, or is it?
Oh, she's past.
She's like, look at. Look at that. Oh.
Yeah, and which is good because it just shows she's getting more comfortable. She's been really nervous and skittish, and so it's a good thing.
Well, I
So
just had just two more quick
keep
questions
going.
before we go.
With whatever you want to talk about. I know we've been trying to do this, and to everybody watching this that will watch this, we had scheduling conflicts, technical difficulties. We've been trying to do this for a while,
Yes,
and
yes.
so I've really wanted to do this with Portland because I have family. My family is originally Oregonians on my mother's
Oh,
side.
wow.
I don't know if you guys have ever heard of. Well, of course, you guys know about Corvallis, but in between Corvallis and Newport on the coast there
Yes.
is a little town, little area called Eddyville, Oregon. That area was settled by my ancestors on my mother's side. They came out on the Oregon Trail,
Oh,
and
how
out there we
cool.
have land and whatnot, and there's a cemetery that with my ancestors in it back to like the early 1800s, so or like the mid 1800s. So it's I, I appreciate Oregon, and in fact, I know I'm going to be coming up there in the next couple of months, at least once.
Yes.
So
Come see
for those
us.
in Portland, I'll be coming
Oh, you don't
eventually.
don't even plan to get a hotel room. Somebody will put you up here. So we would love to have you and bring you
I'll be
to.
coming up to check out the OPDX family up there, and we'll see you guys. And I don't know when that's going to happen. We've got a lot of plans for January, but yeah, I mean probably February or March. I'll make a trip up and see how you guys are doing. Hopefully, if you guys are having a big action in one of those months, I'll try and plan around it and try and come up and
Yeah,
support you guys.
that would be awesome.
But yeah, go ahead, shoot.
So that reminds me, you mentioned January and March, but I know from talking to JT Funkboy NSF that you guys are taking donations for airline miles to get. Is it to the January DC action or the May DC action?
So I already had a guy that bought me a ticket.
Great.
So guy uses air miles. I'm trying to think of his Twitter name right now. Yes, Skyvan, Skyvan, Skyvan on Twitter. He basically came. He basically travels for a living, and he used his air miles to purchase me round trip tickets
Beautiful.
from San Francisco to New York on the 13th, and
Mm-hmm.
then I'll be coming back on the 24th from DC. So I'll be in New York for a couple of days, and then I'll travel to DC probably on the 16th,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll be in DC for the 17th action, and then Occupy the Federal Courts is supposed to happen on the 20th, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
and so I believe I'll stay and occupy the Supreme Court if all
Wow.
that looks like it'll work out.
Mm-hmm.
But if that's not going to happen, then what I'll do is I'll stay in DC for a couple of days probably, and then probably try and take a train up to Boston or Philadelphia or something like that. Just basically try and make my rounds up there on the East Coast for about 10 days. Do some documentary film work up there, and basically do some streaming and try and basically check out the East Coast and be out there in solidarity with all of them.
Indeed. So are you still taking donations through your WePay?
Oh, we've raised a good amount of money to be able to do this for probably about 6 months so far.
Okay. Because you
But
can feel free to plug it. Give it a
well,
shout out.
I mean, you can go to the website. It's OakFoSho.com, OakFoSho.com, and you can check out the donate page. We also have like a technical needs equipment
Oh, great.
equipment page. Like, I mean, I assume like if I were to stop, improving the stream, like we bought a bunch of equipment the other day. We bought like a monopod.
Is it over there? Can you show that?
We did.
Oh, you have got a fan club just for your gear alone. So that was my next question. Everybody wants to see it. Tell me what it is.
So this is the Sony Handycam that was on loan to me from Ustream. Ustream also has a pack that they loaned me. This is like a halogen lamp, I guess, or whatever it is for the camera. This is an IR light that was donated to me. It's for night vision shots. This is the bracketing that connects to the monopod here. I have a monopod for the camera. I'm also going to get a tripod because when I do some setup shots, the monopod still is a little bit shaky.
Right.
It's great for quick movements and action, stuff like that, but
Mm-hmm.
because it's light, it's really portable. But
And what kind of camera is it?
it's just a Sony Handycam, but the Handycam and the pack are on loan to me from Ustream, and I didn't have a FireWire capable camera, and they were like, okay, well, we'll give you this camera anyways. And it's actually perfect because it's, you watch I have the same backpack. The Ustream backpack is like this 6 modem backpack that.
Yes, can we see that too?
Yeah, it uploads data over here. Let me just
go
please ahead and show you guys.
There it is, guys.
And you can see the external batteries that are charging right now. Actually, they're like external laptop batteries, and basically is I have like 6 hours of filming on it, or streaming on it with the batteries. It uploads over 3 cell networks, Sprint, AT&T, and Verizon at the same time. It all goes up throughout these networks and comes back together on one server and is put out on the internet in high definition.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful thing. Essentially, it's the Handycam. I see reporters with the same backpack, but the Handycam is, generally these reporters have these massive cameras, these much larger, bulkier cameras. But for my purposes, running between police lines, trying to be as portable as can be, the Handycam is perfect. I'm not like a Sony backer or anything like that. I'm just, as far as like size and portability,
right.
It's perfect for my purposes, essentially.
Yeah.
Like people have come out and offered me bigger cameras, and, I said, maybe you could come out and, like, for a specific event like the Commonwealth Club, next time, I'll put a call out to my people and say, hey, if anybody has a really nice camera that I can use just for the steady shots at the Commonwealth Club, then I'll use it. But for running between police lines and, doing the things that I do, I need something that's small and portable. And so it just worked out. I didn't ask for that specific camera, but that's the one that they loaned me, and it's worked perfectly.
Well, how did you get hooked up with them anyway? How did this all unfold?
So the November 2nd strike is the first day that I was streaming, and I've gone back and looked at my initial videos, and it just makes me kind of nostalgic, number one, but it also makes me cringe a little bit because you can just tell I was just starting. And that night I was, especially after the 12 o'clock news folks left, I was like the only live source of news there. Even when the news people were there, I was the only live streaming, unfiltered source there, pretty much. There was a couple other people, but at the time, when I started, I still had like several thousand people that were following me online. So I already had like an audience to put it out there to. And so it grew from that. And by the end of the night, we had anywhere from, 10 to 15,000 people watching on channels that we could count, whether it be my Ustream page or Global Revolution or a couple of other sites that were streaming us, whether they were Ustream or live stream. The ones that we could count were anywhere between 10 and 15,000. Of course, I personally think there were more because, people start mirroring you. Like some nights, like the following week at Cal, I had people messaging me, like 15 different people messaged me telling me that they were watching different mirrors. And so you never know how many people are watching you. But from the next week at Cal, we could tell that we were being watched by, probably about 30 to 35,000 people from a cell phone.
Wow.
And so basically somebody said, I was watching my social stream from the cell phone. You hold the cell phone up here, and while I'm holding it and filming, on the screen here is essentially my social stream that goes by on the Ustream, my Ustream social stream. And I'm watching somebody, and somebody makes a suggestion, hey, you should ping Ustream to get you better equipment because so many people are watching. I mean, headline news and CNBC and like non-prime time hours, we'll get like 25,000 to 30,000 people watching at any one time. So we were essentially the size of a small cable TV show from a cell phone.
Nice.
And so we had, I nonchalantly said, yeah, haha, we should get Ustream to. Somebody sent me a link to like their advertisement for this pack, which is like $2,500 or $3,000 a month to loan people. And I was like, yeah, haha, we should try and get one of those packs.
Nice.
And all of a sudden, like, people took that really seriously. And there were a few people that found all the Ustream executives on Twitter and along with the Ustream account and just started pinging the crap out of them. Just tweeting them, Facebooking them, just pinging them all over the place. Like, hey, look what this guy's doing. You need to get him some equipment. And by the end of the night, I had like two different Ustream folks try and get a hold of me. And within a couple of days, I was out in San Francisco at their headquarters, and they were hooking me up with a pack.
I love it.
And so myself, and yep, there's Jatal. Hey, buddy, I'm doing an interview right now. I know about it. I know what's going down tonight, and yeah, so yeah, it's all good. I'll call you in a little bit, okay? Right on, man. Later. So yeah, that's just I don't even know where. Oh yeah, Ustream. So yeah, that's how it went down, and you know, and I always say we because you know, people have asked me that before too. Why do you always say we? And the reason is because it's not about me. It's about I would be nowhere without all the people behind me, teaching me things, getting things done for me, donating, pinging Ustream. I mean, this is a we operation. I mean, I consider myself like a one-man walking PBS, except for hopefully just a little bit more exciting sometimes. You know? Like,
more than a little.
I'm totally supporter funded, and you know, essentially I'm totally backed by supporters, and so it's a we operation. You know, I do this for us, for not just for, you know, my own purposes. It's, you know, I mean, it's definitely much larger than myself, and it comes from that recognition. That's why it comes from that recognition that that's how it is, and so that's why I always say that. But you know, we've accomplished so much so far, and it's only been about a month and a half. You know, we started on the 2nd of November, and what's the date today? You know, I think it's
the 21st.
So it's been like 50 days.
Yes.
You know, it's been like 50 days, which is just unbelievable. It's just unbelievable.
Well, that brings me to my last question is, you know, there's Occupy movements, you know, encampments, actions cropping up everywhere. What is the best advice that you could give to a brand new, you know, camp, chapter, whatever of the movement? Was the best advice that you could give to them going forward, whether they be in a big city, a small city, you know?
Wow. Well, as far as an encampment is concerned, I don't even know what to say.
It's a lot.
They're gonna do, you know, the government is gonna do what the government does, and they don't want us to be camped out anywhere. They don't want us to be visible. They don't want this movement front and center. They don't want the problems of the country that these camps that these camps represent, essentially, out in front of the public. I mean, the reason why Oakland was raided, in my opinion, was not because of health and safety hazards. Because if it was raided for health and safety hazards, then you got to raid the rest of Oakland too. You know, I mean, it was raided because we brought the problems of the city front and center to the steps of power and said, hey, you're not solving these problems, and so we're going to do the best we can to solve them in this camp. You know, feeding 1,700 meals a day to people out of that camp, providing free health care to people that were without services, you know, trying to provide services to the homeless and solve the homelessness problem as best we could within the confines of a camp. You know, that's not very plausible in many ways, but at the same time, it's about symbolism as much as it is about effect. You know,
Yes.
it's about showing, you know, hey, you're failing in your fundamental duties as a government to take care of its people. You know, to ensure the health and safety of its people, and as a result, you know, that camp was highly necessary, and they are still highly necessary. So yeah, as you can see, I'm getting texts almost from everybody across the spectrum right now. But yeah, it's you know, just keep going. If they break up your camp, you know. Start finding foreclosed homes. Find foreclosed homes. Get people to occupy those foreclosed homes in collaboration and in solidarity with the people that own them, not the banks, but the people that actually are supposed to be living there,
Right.
like we're doing here in Oakland. Start radical actions in your city. Start supporting small businesses and homeowners, and start supporting the community that is left without when the 1% and the government that basically they own is only thinking about themselves.
Yeah, it's I can't wait to see what the next year brings for us. You know, I mean, it
Hey,
feels
the
like
next
it's been a
month.
lot longer than it has, doesn't
I
it?
mean, if today's the 21st, I mean, 1 month from now we're going to be occupying the freaking Congress. I
So,
mean, so it's like I'm interested to see what's going to happen in the next 30 days myself. It's going to be. I mean, we're going to occupy the Rose Parade. We're going to
uh,
occupy Congress. We're going to occupy the federal courts. This isn't stopping. We're just getting started. And then, of course, coming up July 4th, I mean, it's kind of out there. That's kind of like as far as my mental spectrum goes at
mm,
this point with regards to the movement. Hopefully, we'll have some kind of national gathering, where we put together something and start making demands as a nation, as a nation of 99 percenters. We're continuing. We've started actions against the 1% with the port shutdown and the general strike. We're going to start actions against the government that's owned by the 1%, owned and operated by the 1% next month in January. We're going to start making large symbolic statements, like what's going to go down at the Rose Parade. We're going to keep on local levels. We're going to keep fighting for homeowners in foreclosure. We're still in our infancy. We're only a few months old, and that's what people understand. Oh, your movement is like fractured, and it's
dude,
communication isn't there, and it's just like we're like 3 months old.
seriously,
Like just wait, because we're coming, and people are like, oh, well, now that your camps are gone, your movement is dead. Well,
no,
you don't know the half of it, because it's going down, and people are working on it 24 hours a day somewhere. There's always people working and collaborating and brainstorming, and it's going down.
yeah, and we are evolving.
Right on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. And I'd like to, after we get the holiday out of the way, maybe we'll come back in a couple of weeks and do a part two of this interview. I know there's some other live stream team members that would love to sit down and pick
Without a
your
doubt.
brain.
Without a
Yes.
doubt. Without a doubt. I'm sorry it took this long. I wanted
No,
to do this
I'm
for
just,
a while.
it was great. It happens when it happens, and we're fluid like that. So thank you so much for just everything that you do. I mean, really, just speaking me personally, you inspire me, to find ways to contribute. And I myself am disabled. I have lupus, Sjogren's disease, and rheumatoid arthritis, and so I'm not able to physically be out there streaming as much. And so I've found other ways, like reaching out through Skype with you and JT, and I'm trying to get with Occupy Cairo right now to have a dialogue with them. And I mean, you really have inspired me to really find ways to give. And I know so many of us here feel the same way about the work that you and everybody else is doing. So great job.
I mean, that's the goal. I appreciate you saying so. I mean, that's the goal, is to inspire others to do what I do and what we do as a community. Never let the camera stop. Always keep them rolling. You're the buffer against police and the government doing something stupid, breaking the law. And just keep it going all the way around. And I would be remiss if I didn't say, a lot of people, Cairo and Oakland in many ways are connected through this thing.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
they marched in solidarity with us, and we've marched in solidarity with them, specifically Oakland and Cairo, and so many people call it Cairo-Oakland. And I would be remiss if I didn't say, with the violence that we've had here, it has not even touched on even a small level. It hasn't even come to maybe 1%. Of what we've experienced here, or what we've experienced, maybe 1% of what they've experienced out there.
Correct.
The level of violence and the level of brutality coming from SCAF and the Egyptian military and their basically militias out there is something that's on a whole nother level. And so, I always speak out in solidarity with them and in solidarity for all the political prisoners and human rights activists that are now in prison out there. And so
over 12,000 since January 25 are still in prison.
It's a shame. It's an absolute shame. And, we especially here in Oakland, we are constantly thinking about them. and
Same
I'm
here.
sure they're constantly thinking about us. And so, yeah, if any of them end up watching this, we absolutely, we think about you guys all the time.
Yes,
and we stand with you, and we hope, we know that what you guys are fighting for will eventually come through, and you guys will achieve the goals and the freedoms that you guys are trying to achieve. And one other thing that I'd like to address is, I'm what I consider viciously nonviolent, and people here in Oakland, it's one of the things that we have a debate about that's going on throughout the movement, not just here in Oakland, but in Oakland in particular, especially. It's this debate between nonviolence and diversity of tactics, and I firmly believe in a diversity of tactics that are nonviolent.
Yes.
But I am on the nonviolent side 110%. And people who come up to me and say, "Oh, well, what about all this police brutality and things like that?" And I'm like, well, when the government and the police state starts rolling on us on tanks and letting bullets fly and start shooting people, then we can start talking about other tactics.
Right.
But until then, it's just I can't even really hear it. Because again, when things like that, what are happening in Egypt happen here, then we can start talking about other kind of tactics. Until then, nonviolence, in my opinion, is the only way to go.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. We don't.
I think I just lost your.
No, I had.
Oh, there we go.
There it goes. Yeah, I agree, and I'm actually glad you brought that up, because that was I had heard through the grapevine that was how you felt about the situation, and one of the things I wanted to ask you and forgotten about. So I think that's really important to stress that, because I feel like operating from a place of peace and nonviolence, in the face of tyranny, especially, I mean, it only amplifies the injustice. And I think it's very important for all of the Occupy movements to really understand and get behind that principle of nonviolence, and understand that it's okay to be angry, but if we stand together and stand against this negativity in a peaceful way, we can only come out ahead.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Thank you so much for
having
spending time, and we will see you again soon.
Absolutely.
All right. Good luck.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.